Stop using church intimidation, control and manipulation. Jezebel and all them spirits fall back, not trying to hear it. Go with Jesus, walk in peace. On your pew can sit that beast that we're fighting in the world. I'm that JC Supergirl, Jesus Christ, belt of truth, arm of God, I'm slaying you. Power of the word to a sword. MC Heaven rocks for her Lord. Thought they crept in unaware, didn't see the gatekeeper standing right there. Not getting down with your tactics, undoctrinal practice.
Shalawam and Ahthah, everyone. I greet you in the name of Ahayah, Bahashem Yashaya, Rawach, Qadash. My name is Crystal Jones, and you have tuned into the Crystal Jones Show. It's the show that's all about life balance. Now, let me give you my contact information. You can view my show every Saturday, all right, from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. on bronxnet.tv. All right, I'm on the Inspire channel and also on your cable channels 951 and 2137. All right, also, please go to my YouTube channel, The Crystal Jones TV Show. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for subscribing. Like my videos, and please share them with everyone so that they could be a part of the different teachings and learnings that the Lord is blessing us with here on this show. All right. So you can also go to my Instagram, where I have inspirational things put up every day, inspirational as far as the scriptures and all of that. And you can also view my show on HebrewConnect.tv. All right, now let's go to the scripture of the day. Now this, again, we're doing the teaching on Esau and Jacob. So this has something to do with why when people read the scripture that said, where the Lord said, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. And people think like, how come God, he's supposed to be God. He hates people. No, he hates their deeds and their ways, right? When they're doing things that are against what he would really have for us to do as people, right? So we go to Romans, the 9th chapter, the 6th through the 16th verse. And it said, not as though the word of God hath taken none effect, for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. In other words, just because you're born an Israelite does not mean that you are following the laws, commandments, and statutes that the Lord have for us. The base, and it's very basic. People try to make the Bible hard. Love God above all else. Love your neighbor. Do your neighbor right. Don't steal. Don't do things you ain't got no business doing. That's basically it. But people want to make a big deal out of it. Well, you'll be able to do this and do that and all of that. But all of those other things lead to unrighteousness, right? So it says, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac thy seed shall be called. So remember, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are our patriarchs. All right. But in Isaac, the seed of Abraham was called, and we became Israelites through his son Jacob, Isaac's son Jacob. All right. So that's when we became Israelites, right? So that is they which are the children of the flesh, meaning you could be born an Israelite, but you're so fleshly that you are not in tune with the Lord at all. So whether you were born an Israelite, that makes no difference. You're not following the ways and customs of an Israelite. That is they which are the children of the flesh. These are not the children of God, but the children of the promise are counted for the seed, right? So even though we're counted for the seed, we were chosen generation on royal priesthood, but if we don't follow what the Lord, there are terms to follow. And if you break that contract, you're on the outside of the deal, right? For this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. Like the Lord had promised Abraham that he was going to give Sarah a child, though she was about 100 years old. Doesn't matter. God's timing is not our timing, but he will call forth the seed through Sarah. Kings and priests will come through her, right? So Not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, Rebekah also had been barren, but the Lord touched her. And like I read to you all last week, she told her husband, listen, Isaac, just like your father Abraham prayed to the Lord about your mother Sarah and her barren womb became fruitful, you pray for me, brother, and my womb will become fruitful, right? And so then, that's when, he prayed, and his wife had the twins, Esau and Jacob. Now, verse 11 says, for the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. In other words, this whole plan was, God spoke us into existence way before we even got here. He knew who we were. He even told Jeremiah, before I formed you in your mother's belly, I knew you. I knew who you were. And you're here for a purpose. Everybody's here for a purpose, whether good, bad, or very ugly, right? But you have that time to choose what you're going to do. Choose you this day who you will serve, right? So the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. So the elder was Esau, and he will serve Jacob. As you notice, the empires are changing here. One empire is going down and another one is coming up. The empire of Esau, conquering, colonizing, and all of that stuff is going to be to a finish soon, and very soon. Within the next 20, 30 years, you're going to see that empire coming down. It's like the book of Revelation talks about Babylon the Great has fallen. There are key things that are going on right now in the earth that we have to pay attention to, because once certain things are in place and happens, the place that we know of as so-called land of free and home of brave is going to be done away with. And that kingdom is going to come down because it's a warring kingdom. It's against everybody. It's just a selfish kingdom, and it's going to come down. And then God's kingdom is going to arise through Jacob. And there will be Gentiles with us that join us and stuff. Not all of them want to be Karen and Ken and all of this nonsense that you see going on. That's a crazy kingdom. That kingdom is coming down. And the next kingdom, which is Jacob's kingdom, which is the seed that's called, is going to arise. All right. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. Verse 13 says, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. He hated Esau's deeds. Esau was not obedient. He was a warring person. He, did a lot of stuff that just wasn't right, and God didn't like it. Neither Abraham didn't like Esau too much either, as you'll see, in the teaching. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. No, there's no unrighteousness with the Lord, but he knows the thoughts and intents of a person's heart before they even do anything. He knows what they're up to. For he saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So that it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy. Because if a person comes to the Lord and repents and wants to do right, God knows the intent of their heart. So he can either say, okay, this person is sincere, I'm going to receive them. But he can see and say, no, they lying. Because he knows the intents of our hearts. All right. So we're going to still be continuing the teaching of Esau and Jacob. All right. So now I thought today it'd be kind of fun to go to some of our funny videos. And the first video we're going to see is a funny parent-teacher conference video. Check this out.
Thank you so much for coming in today and meeting with me. No, it's no problem. I'm happy to come up here and meet with you. You can call me anytime, day or night. Do not hesitate. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and get this over with, because I feel like whatever it is that we need to talk about today could have been a phone call or an email. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about is Kira's classwork. assignments. I'm having a really hard time getting her to turn in her assignments. Also having a really hard time getting her to actually stay on task. You've been having problems out of her. What kind of problem? You better not been in this teacher's classroom causing her any kind of problems. Let me know exactly what's been going on. Okay, yeah, she told me about that. She said the assignments that you give her are way too easy to do. Maybe you should actually give her some work that's challenging for her to do. Did you ever think about that? I'm also having to constantly get onto her, ask her to be quiet. She is consistently disrupting my class. She did what? I think you done lost your mind and I'm about to help you find it. Okay, let me get this straight. You called me up here because you're having problems with her at school. Okay, well, when she's at school, she's your problem. Do I call you when I have problems with her at home? No. I've also tried to talk to her about the amount of play fighting that she does in my class. She is constantly hitting, slapping, pushing. I mean, we have such a big problem with that. Do I send you to school to play? No, I do not. I send you to school to get an education. But you know what? Since you got time to play at school, you're not going to have time to play at home with your little friends because you're going to be too busy in your room finishing all these assignments that you didn't have time to finish in class because you had time to play. Okay, well, I taught my child that it's okay for her to stand up for herself. Why don't you do your job and move these kids away from my child so that they're not bothering her, so that she doesn't feel the need to defend herself? If you can't handle this problem, then I'll contact the principal and let them know that you're allowing my child to be bullied during your class. I have the hardest time ever getting Kiara to actually pay attention during class. While I'm standing up there teaching, she's fidgeting in her book bag, throwing paper airplanes at other students, absolutely disrupting the entire flow of my classroom. I am so sorry. I just cannot believe my eyes. You know dang well I don't let you talk when another adult is talking. You better look at me when I'm talking to you. Okay, well, if she's fidgeting in her book bag and she's not paying attention, that's because she's bored. Maybe you need to do a better job of engaging your students during class. You let me know if you have any more problems out of her. Because we're going to go home. We're going to correct these behaviors at home, aren't we? Get up and come on here so we can go to the house so I can teach you to act like you got some manners. Because this meeting was absolutely pointless. You literally called me in here to complain about my child. And I personally think that you just don't like my child.
I've seen this lady has a lot of these videos, and it's true. The difference between the 90s and now, or even back when I was growing up, going to school, honey, you better not be acting up in school, okay? The stuff that these kids get away with today, I could just, no, they were more like the ones in the 90s where your parents were going to correct you real fast, okay? All right, so the next video, I'm going to start early this month for Black History Month. We have the shortest month of the year, which is February, only 28 days. I don't know if people realize that, but they gave us the month of February. However, Black History is every day for us. But I'm going to be starting this month to show different things within our history, starting from where we came from. So I decided that, there's a place that we started off when we were scattered in 70 AD from Jerusalem. When we got scattered, we went into the areas of Africa. So that's why they call all of us African, but we're actually from Jerusalem. So I wanted to start with this place called Negro land. All right, so please take a look at this video. Let's check this out.
I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich. Welcome to the Black Excellence and Abundance Channel.
The great continent
of Africa have been known by many names. Names like Ortija, Corphide, Libya, Ethiopia, Akibalon, and currently Africa. One name that is usually not on that list is a section of Africa known as Negroland. What is Negroland? And where is Negroland? And who comes from Negrolands? Well, it would stand to reason that Negrolands is the origin of the so-called Negro. The very large section of Africa known as Negroland would include countries like Senegal, Cape Verde, Gambia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ghana, Togo, Benin, the Congo, Nigeria, Mali, and a few others. So you see, this was a very huge section of Africa, which included several countries where the Negroes were actually scattered throughout the world from this region, also known as the Slave Coast, or the Gold Coast, or the Ivory Coast. And in that place called Negroland was a region called the Kingdom of Judah, also referred to as the Kingdom of Wahuda, and lived there were Jews. On this map, you can see a map of the Slave Coast, which is current-day Ghana. This is where many of the slaves were shipped from, and the last place that they seen was a door known as the Door of No Return. That door still stands to this day. Please notice on this slide, at the very top, you'll see K of Judah or Wahuda, Slave Coast, same exact place. So the Kingdom of Judah, the Kingdom of Wahuda, was the exact same place as the Slave Coast. So who was shipped from the Slave Coast? Judah, the Negroes. When we look at the migration patterns of the Hebrew Israelites of the Bible, we see that they left from Jerusalem and traveled through Africa, eventually settling in West Africa, where there was no place else to go. Another very important point that we would like to make, biblically speaking, in the Bible, in St. Luke, chapter 21, verses 20 and 21. And it reads, "And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto." So Jesus was telling them, when you see the armies of the Romans, flee into the mountains, because desolation is coming. And the mountains that he was speaking of were the mountains of Africa. And that's exactly where the Hebrew Israelites fled to.
Now, with foreknowledge and deductive reasoning, we can conclude safely that the Israelites fled into Africa based on the fact that if they fled in any other direction, they'd be fleeing into enemy territory. The significance of this shows the migration pattern of the Israelites led into Africa.
Dr. Ben Ephraim has did some outstanding work on the difference between the Africans and the Hebrews. Although we were both in Africa, we were not the same people. It was a difference between Shem and Ham.
In his studies, he proved that the DNA for Shem is E1B1A and for Ham is E1B1B. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites.
Now, it's important to remember that the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary states that Negroes do not descend from Ham. If Negroes don't descend from Ham, and we know they don't descend from Japheth, that only leaves one descendant of Noah, and that's Shem. Negroes descend from the line of Shem. Thus, Negro land is the land of Shem.
Although we look very similar, it is easy to see how Shem and Ham could be mistaken for one another. Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian, Joseph was mistaken for an Egyptian, and Jesus, Yashua, was hidden in Egypt because he looked like the Egyptians, although they all were Hebrews. Jeremiah 9:16 says, I will scatter them among the heathens, whom neither they nor their fathers have known, and I will send a sword after them till I have consumed them. The Most High clearly states that he will scatter Judah.
Now we know that the Bible says that Judah will be scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. And we also know that the kingdom of Judah is the same place where the transatlantic slave trade started. So either the Bible is telling the truth, or this is simply the greatest coincidence of all time. We'll let you be the judge.
And just think, all my life I thought the term Negro was a derogatory term, only to find out that there was indeed a place known as Negro land, where the Hebrews of the Bible actually migrated to and were shipped from. Amazing.
Okay, so we see that particular video backs up the things that I've been explaining to you all about how when we were in the Roman and Jewish wars, the final one in 70 AD, when we got put out the land totally, that's when we went to the other areas in Africa, because Israel is in Northeast Africa, but we went in further into Africa once we lost the land and we got scattered to many nations. That's what happened with the Spanish Inquisition and all of those different things. You had a lot of black people we wouldn't have been able to run into Africa like that if we were white. We went into Africa because we looked like them. We fled into Africa, Egypt, all of these different places because our land was taken from us, right? So when we fled, there is a place called Negro land that marked us as being separate from the Africans. We were the Negroes from Jerusalem. All right. They called us Hebrews or Hebrews, meaning Hebrews. So because we were the original bloodline Hebrews. Now, the white Jewish people that you see, some of them are actually bloodline Hebrews. The rest of them are not. They're converted. They've been converted. That's another topic that I'll teach on at another time. But we are the actual bloodline Jews. All right. We're the bloodline Hebrews. Okay. And we are the Israelites. The Israelites were always black people because we came from Jacob. Jacob was a black man. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were all black people. Remember, the first people on the earth, when God said, he said, I'll create man from the dust, the dirt of the earth. Even in Revelation, it tells you the color of Christ, that he was burnt bronze. It tells you what God looks like in the Bible. Even in the Old Testament, burnt bronze is black. Now, how white people came about, because they weren't always in existence. They came from us. We're all one race of people, but they came from black people. Just that when the slave trade started, they had to do something to get us to forget our past, forget our history. So they lied to us and covered up things and only put the 66 books in the Bible and tried to make it so that we were the Gentile nations and, that type of thing. They started to tell a lot of lies and cover up and rewrite history. But actually what happened, we were in Jerusalem, we lost Israel, went into the other areas of Africa. Negro land was an area that we went into, and that's how we got sold into slavery once we went further into the other areas of Africa. All right, so now we're going to move on to our missing youth. Today's youth is a young man. He's not exactly a teen, but he is a person that has mental disability. So I wanted to focus more on him. Okay, his name is Adrian Page. All right, and it says the New York City Police Department is asking for our assistance in locating him. He was reported missing from within the confines of the 48th precinct in the Bronx. All right, so he's one of ours, a Bronxite. He's missing. It was reported he was last seen at a food pantry. It was located at 870 East 163rd Street in the Bronx. He's described as a 26-year-old male, a black male. He's approximately 5 feet 7 inches tall. He weighs about 190 pounds. He has eyeglasses and a goatee, okay, with 2 scars on the left side of his face, all right, as well as scars on the top of his hands visible to the eye. He suffers from mental illness, so I wanted to focus more on this today. He was last seen wearing light blue jeans and dark blue long sleeves. Okay, so his family is looking for him. If you have any information or you've seen him, you know where he is, please call NYPD Crime Stoppers 1-800-577-8477. 1-800-577-8477. And let's get this gentleman back to his family. Okay. I wanted to focus on this because he has a mental disability. All right. So now we are going to move on to our health and wellness tips. In the wintertime, it is very hard for those of us who suffer a little bit or greatly so with arthritis. So my health and wellness tip today is get heating pads for your back and your knees during the winter months. You can go to online and order some of those heating pad sleeves for the knee that massage your knee. Okay, and also it heats your knee. So that way you can, you know what I'm saying? You really got to watch yourself during the winter. Otherwise, you're going to feel like you can hardly move. All right, so please do that. For the business tips, do more online connecting platforms during winter months. Why? It's cold. It's cold outside. You don't want to be running here and there and everywhere and with all these restrictions out and stuff like that. Use your social media platforms to connect with people during the winter months, because you can, that it's easier. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have a time limit or anything. And you can sit and really discuss things with people from the comfort and confines of your own home. So please do that. All right. Okay. So now we're going to say our credo, which is Shema Yashaya, Ahayah, Alahayah Nawa, Ahayah Akkad, meaning, listen, Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord our God, he is one. And you can find that in Deuteronomy 6:4. All right, so we're going to move on to today's lesson. We're going back to we're still studying Esau and Jacob. So remember, we are Jacob's seed. Those of us who are Hebrew Israelites, we came from Jacob. Israelites are from Jacob. Jacob's name was changed from Jacob, which means trickster, to Israel. When I did Jacob's ladder a couple of weeks back, please go back and look at that video so you can understand how that goes. That's the Israelites are black and always were black people. That's who we are, okay? Because we came from the line of Jacob. Esau became the more white European nation because he left off his birthright and he mixed in with the surrounding nations, the European nations and this nation and that nation. Okay, so that would be more than white nation of people. The European Jews. Okay, they may be Hebrew, but they're not Israelites. Okay, so that's how that breaks down. They're still our brothers and sisters, y'all. We're not gonna do this hate thing and all of that, and when it boils down to it, we're one human race of people broken down into different ethnicities and languages and stuff like that. Okay, but if we serve the Lord and do what he said, we'll all be together, because we're all going to be together in the New Jerusalem anyway. If those of us who believe in Christ, that he is the way back to the Lord and stuff and that type of thing, and we believe in Christ's doctrine and all of that, we will all be together. So, all right. Now, today's lesson of Esau and Jacob is based on Genesis, the 25th chapter, the 20th through the 34th verse. But I'm going to be reading from the book of Yashaya. Now, I explained to you that Yashaya in the book of Jubilees is from the Apocryphal books, which was taken out of the 66 books that we know. And when this book was first put together, the King James Version, King James was from the seed of David, the line. He was a Judite. He's from Judah. He's the tribe of Judah. He was a black man he was king over England and Scotland, I believe, at the same time. That was during the time where the kingdom of Judah basically ruled Europe, and the European people were in kind of a darkness at that time. They lived in the Caucasus Mountains. Even their own historians and stuff will tell you that at that time, our people taught them how to bathe and how to do different things. Because when they were living in the Caucasus Mountains, if you read the different books, like the 13th Tribe by Arthur Kessler, who is a white Jewish man, but he'll tell you they were not cleanly back then, the white Jews. The Khazarians, the Khazars, who are not bloodline Jews, but they had converted to being Jews because of what was going on in the surrounding area. So you have the white nations of people that were living in caves and things like that. And when the black Judites came and taught them cleanliness and things like that, that's what was going on then. So what we're going to do is, what happened was King James had brought together the different books of the Bible, which are mentioned in the 66 book. The book of Yashaya is mentioned in the 66 books, but those are just like little summaries of what really happened. Last week I read to you the backdrop of the struggle between Esau and Jacob. So we're going to go a little further into it today. But the apocryphal books were brought in the original Bible, had been 66 books plus the apocryphal books as well. So the apocryphal books tell the whole story. Now today I'm going to be coming to you from Yashaya, the 26th chapter. So now it says, and Isaac and the children of his household, right? Isaac is Abraham's son, okay? And Isaac is the father of Jacob, Esau, and Jacob, right? So now Isaac and the children of his household dwelt with his father Abraham in the land of Canaan. Canaan is today's Israel. That was the land that the Lord promised to Abraham, and he gave it to him as God had commanded them. And Ishmael, the son of Abraham, that's another story of, in the beginning when Sarah didn't think she was going to have a baby, with Abraham. She had given him her Egyptian servant, and they had a child together who was Ishmael, because they were trying to create nations of people and stuff like that, right? And so Abraham thought that Ishmael was going to be his heir, but the Lord said, no, it's not with him. I'm going to do that with your son Isaac. And he told him that before Isaac was even born. And Ishmael, the son of Abraham, went with his children and all belonging to them, and they returned there to the land of Havilah, and they dwelt there. And all the children of Abraham's concubines went to dwell in the land of the east, for Abraham had sent them away from his son and had given them presents, and they went away. Now, after Sarah died, Abraham had concubines. At that time, like I said, they were creating nations of people, but that was not God's law. God's law was for you to have one wife. All right. So don't get excited, y'all. God ain't for you doing all of this nonsense. Oh, I see you. Okay. And Abraham gave all that he had to his son Isaac, and he also gave him all his treasures, because he was the son of promise. He was the son of the promised seed, the seed with Abraham and his wife Sarah, right? And he commanded him, saying, do you not know and understand the Lord is God in heaven and earth, and there's no other beside him? So he's charging Isaac, like, I'm giving you all I have because you're the promised seed, and this is what you got to do. And it was he who took me from my father's house and from my birthplace and gave me all the delights upon earth. He delivered me from the counsel of the wicked. For him did I trust. Because remember, the Lord separated Abraham from his father's people because they were serving idols. And he brought me to this place. He delivered me from Ur. And he's saying all of these different places, different things that the Lord delivered him from to make him a separate nation of people. We became Hebrews through Abraham. Now, therefore, my son, hearken to my voice and keep the commandments of the Lord thy God, that I command you. Don't turn from it to the right or the left, in order that it may be well with thee and thy children after thee forever. So he's warning him, don't follow after these other nations. The Lord saved me from those nations because they were not following his ways. And remember the wonderful works of the Lord and that he taught us. Teach your children and your seed the instructions of the Lord and his commandments. Teach them the way of the Lord. Isaac answered his father and said, that which the Lord I've commanded, I'm going to do. It was at that time Abraham then died. So he's telling him before he dies, this is what you're supposed to do. So then he died, right? So Abraham was very loved, and as you read on, it tell you the inhabitants of the land, they mourned over him and all of that. The Lord was with him. He delivered him from the counsel of Nimrod and all of that. And it tells you as you go on and read further down into Joshua the 26th chapter. Now I'm going on to chapter 27 because I want to tell you about Esau, why the Lord didn't like him and his ways. And Esau at that time, after the death of Abraham, frequently went in the field to hunt. That's why you see so many of their people, they have all these hunting shows and stuff like that. They're from that line of Esau. They're really into that. That's in their blood. All right. And Nimrod, king of Babel, remember the Tower of Babel. Okay, that's who Nimrod is. Nimrod is that king from the Tower of Babel. Remember those people? Because Nimrod got beside himself. The Lord made Nimrod a mighty hunter. And Nimrod got beside himself and said, shoot, I'm above this. And so then the people started, following idols. And they started building the Tower of Babel because they were talking about going to heaven and killing God. And they was going to replace God. Isn't that crazy? But anyway, people do some crazy things, right? Now, the 27th chapter of Joshua, the second verse says, and Nimrod, king of Babel, the same was Amraphel, also frequently went with his mighty men to hunt in the field. So Nimrod was a hunter, right? And to walk about with his men in the cool of the day, right? And Nimrod was observing Esau all the days, for a jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all the days. So Nimrod saw Esau, that Esau was good at hunting too. So I guess he felt like this little brother's giving me some kind of competition here. I don't like him, even though they supposed to all be related or whatever. Yeah. I mean, well, I can't say that they were related because Nimrod he's a Hamite, if I'm not mistaken. We're Shemites. So even though, back then, at that time, they intermarried with different groups of people, because you have Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Okay, the Hamites are basically the African nation of people. The Shemites are the Hebrews and the Hebrew Israelites. And Japheth would be like the East Indians, that type, that group of people, the Arabs, right? So Nimrod was observing Esau. He didn't like Esau. And on a certain day, Esau went in the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness with his 2 men. And all his mighty men and his people were with him in the wilderness, but they moved at a distance from Nimrod, and they went from him in different directions to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. So Esau is aware that, they don't like each other. So Esau decides he's going to go after this guy. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him. They didn't know Esau. And Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of the day, and to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and 2 of his men that were with him came to the place where they were. And when Esau started suddenly from his lurking place and drew his sword, and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head. To this day, they have that way about them. They will make you feel like they're with you and all of that. And all these, watch what's going on today. They will soup you up, make you feel like, oh yeah, we're for Black women, this and that, when there's another agenda behind it. All right. The agenda is to cut off our men, because if they keep pumping us up and not, and have us taking all the accolades and the glory and everything, what happens to the Black man is that he is no more. And that will cause the cutoff of the nation of people. So wake up and smell the coffee. All right. Everything that they seem to be promoting for us is not really for us. A lot of it is against us. All right. So he cut off Nimrod's head. And Esau fought a desperate fight with the 2 men that were with Nimrod. And when they called out to him, Esau turned to them and smote them to death with his sword. So he killed everybody. He killed Nimrod and his little 2 crazy people with him. And all the mighty men of Nimrod who had left him to go to the wilderness heard the cry at a distance. And they knew the voices of those 2 men, and they ran to know the cause of it, when they found their king and the 2 men that were with him lying dead in the wilderness. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled and escaped. And Esau took the valued garments of Nimrod. Whose garments were those originally? Those were Adam's garments. Adam was the first man created on the earth, right? So Adam, once he got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, he had to hunt for his food and stuff like that. He no longer had that access to God's kingdom like he used to, because him and his wife fell into disobedience, obeying the serpent, which was the devil, fooling them, telling them that if they ate from the tree of good and evil, they would be as God, knowing good and evil, which they didn't need to, because they had everything they needed. They didn't have to work for the government or this place or that place. All they had to do was till the land, which was simple. They didn't have to work and all that kind of stuff, So Adam originally had that garment on him. So, because remember, Adam named the animals. Those animals knew him. He wasn't afraid of lions like we are now. If you see a lion, you see them eyes on them lion, you getting out the way. Adam didn't. He saw them. He called them. That's a lion. That's a this and that's a that. And the Lord had told him, name the animals. That's how much power we had with the Lord. All right. So Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod, which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod. Now, Nimrod got these garments because his father was a Hamite who was, I forgot that, I'm trying to remember his father's name, but his father stole the garments, all right? And with which Nimrod prevailed over the whole land, and he ran and concealed them in his house. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men. And he came unto his father's house wearied and exhausted from fight. All right. So this is why Esau was tired. And this is why he sold his birthright, because he was stealing somebody else's garments, even though the garments were stolen with that person, that he stole the garments from Nimrod. Nimrod father stole the garments from, I believe, Cain, who was Adam's son. All right. So these are stolen garments from the first man on the earth. Right. Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men. He came unto his father's house weary and exhausted from fight. Now, it doesn't tell you that in the 66 books. If you go to Genesis, it's not going to tell you the whole backdrop of this story as to how Esau sold his birthright, because he was stealing somebody's garments. That's why God said, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated, because Esau was a warring man. He's out there killing people. He killed Nimrod and his people to steal the garments. Isn't that what he does today? He goes into these lands pretending, oh, we're going under the guise of we're missionaries. What are you doing over in these lands? And every time you go over there, you mess it up. You mess up their resources, and y'all know who I'm talking about, and y'all know where I'm talking about. A lot of time they go over there to Africa and give them some kind of disease and stuff and try to make it like, oh, black people have these diseases and stuff. No, you gave it to them. All right. So you have that same spirit that runs through some of them, not all of them, because not all of them do that. But the ones that do, they follow this same pattern, is to steal people's stuff, people's land. They make merchandise of people. This country wouldn't get the riches that it does if it wasn't for black slaves. They made money off of us. If you go and read about how the insurance companies, how do you think they started the insurance companies through the slave trade? All right. Everything that they have is built off of us, the slavery of us. Okay. So this is the same type of spirit that their forefather has, Esau. This is why God didn't like this man's spirit. All right. Because they feel entitled. That's the same spirit you see in them today. Like last week, I told you about the lady on the airplane saying, what am I, Rosa Parks or something? Where does she get off talking about a civil rights woman who had nothing to do with the foolery that she was doing this woman was doing on the plane, smacking an 80-year-old man because he told her to sit down. He said, sit down, Karen. And this was a white man. Everybody's tired of that crazy spirit of entitlement. And Esau felt he was entitled to do these things, right? So now he came unto his father's house wearied and exhausted from fight, and he was ready to die through grief when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. So who told you he's wearied and tired from killing like 3 or 4 men? He killed Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter. Then he killed his men that came after him, right? So now he's tired and weary. So now he says to his brother Jacob, behold, I'm going to die this day. And wherefore then do I want the birthright? Why did he think he was going to die? Because he knew that Nimrod's people would probably come after him. So whose fault is that? You, Esau, is your fault. You're the warring one. You're the one who go and steal people's garments and everything that people have. All right. I mean, don't you find it weird that in Africa, there are people in South Africa today, there are areas where they have the nerve to tell Africans that they can't live in that area. Africa is belongs to black people. Who are you to tell them where they can and cannot live? You're European. Go back and rule your land. Stop this nonsense, right? So he said unto his brother Jacob, behold, I'm going to die this day. Why should I want my birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter. And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob because he was tired from stealing. He was tired from stealing. Now, the prophecy had already been before this even happened that the older would serve the younger. They told their mother that the Lord told their mother that two nations of people were going to come out of the twins, Esau and Jacob. All right. The one would be stronger than the other. Esau's a mighty hunter. Physically, he's going to be stronger because he wants to kill people to get what he wants. All right. But the older will serve the younger, because when all of this mess is over, when you read what the Bible says, that we're going to be avenged for the slavery and everything. And those nations are going to come and admit what they did to us. Okay, so they're not going to be in power, but we will. But we're not going to do them like they did us. We're going to serve the Lord in righteousness and justice. We ain't got time for that nonsense, killing people. Come on, right? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter, and Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so brought about by who? The Lord. So he said, Esau, you think you slick. You think you got something going on. This is what's going to happen. You must think you stealing something from somebody, but you're going to hand over your birthright today because I'm tired of your mess. You are going to lose what you thought was yours because it is not yours. The birthright belongs to the second child, the one that came out second. His hand was on your heel because he's the one that is going to rule. All right. And Esau's portion in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought from the children of Heth for the possession of a burial ground, Esau also sold that to Jacob. So he brought this mess on himself. Stealing, right? And Jacob bought all this from his brother Esau for a value given. Hey, all right. He said, all right, bro, you don't want your birthright? But it was already prophesied, so Jacob didn't even realize all of this. All right. And Jacob wrote the whole of this in a book. And he testified the same with witnesses, and he sealed it. He had his receipt book. Like, yeah, this is what happened. I don't want nobody to lie and say I stole nothing from my brother, because he sold this to me for that amount. And he testified with witnesses, and he sealed it, and the book remained in the hands of Jacob. And when Nimrod, the son of Cush, died, his men lifted him up and brought him in consternation and buried him in his city. And all the days that Nimrod lived were 215 years, and he died. All right. So Nimrod, the mighty hunter who lifted up himself against the Lord, he was dead. Okay. He got killed by a warring man also, which was Esau. And the days that Nimrod reigned upon the people of the land were 185 years. Nimrod died by the sword of Esau. All right. In shame and contempt. The same way Esau dies. You'll see eventually how Esau dies. All right. So basically, that's what I'm going to bring to you today about Esau and Jacob. It wasn't that Jacob stole anybody's birthright. It was given to him by God. When their mother was pregnant, she went to Shem and Abraham, who were the priests of the land at that time, and they told her 2 nations of people will be born of you. One will be stronger than the other, but the older shall serve the younger. All right. We who are Jacob, who are Israelites, we are the nations of people who are the priests and all of that. And we're supposed to be in place to judge fallen angels. That's what we were created for, to judge fallen angels and to bring the nations back to the righteous servitude of the Lord. So as things come together in the earth, as you see, the earth is reeling and rocking us. It's on a shake up. More people are going to die. A lot of things are going to take place. But you better make sure you're on the Lord's side. I don't care what nation you from. Be with the Lord. Don't be with nothing that you see is wrong. Even my people, I see that a lot of them are going to be killed, and they're going to be deceived and killed because they're not paying attention to their heritage. They're not paying attention to who they're supposed to be. But I say, Kwam Yashara, rise up. It's not time to rise up for hatred against your brothers and sisters. The white nation of Jews are our brothers and sisters. It's not time to be hating them. It's time to get together with them about the scriptures so that they can be converted to righteousness. Because remember, we were lied to and they were too. Okay, so we've been lied to here in America, being told all kind of crazy things about us, that we came from monkeys and apes and that we were the Gentiles and all kind of crazy stuff. But we're not the Gentiles. We're the Jews. We are the Israelites, the chosen generation, the royal priesthood. The Lord has called us out of darkness. We're supposed to come out of that darkness. We're supposed to arise. And the first of us that have arisen are the tribe of Judah. There's 12 tribes. All of these tribes are being called back together again. We all look different because we were scattered to the four corners of the earth. So the 12 tribes are the Israelites. Now, the ones who are Hebrews, just, the white nation of people, they too are to serve the Lord. All the nations of the earth are to serve the Lord. But we're the ones that are supposed to help orchestrate people coming back to the service of the Lord. That's it. That's all. We ain't here to beat nobody up and all this crazy stuff that you hear about people who are Hebrew Israelites. Pay that stuff no mind. We are supposed to bring the people back to the worship and the service of the Lord. All right. So I thank you all for listening. And remember, you can watch my show every Saturday from 7 to 8 p.m. on bronxnet.tv. And also you can, check me out on your cable channels, channel 951 and 2137. Go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel, share the videos and things like that so people know. The Bible teaches they need to know the truth. It's time to know the truth, y'all. We're at the end. These are the end times. All right. Also, check out my Instagram. Check me out on HebrewConnect.tv. All right. So thank you all for joining in. Tell somebody about this, share this video so that people could know the truth and they can start reading the apocryphal books, because that brings out everything. All right. So God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. And remember, I always tell you, and you stay balanced.
You care for the house, the kids, and our future. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's save a little more now so we can create the retirement we want. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need. Visit asiaretirement.org.
If you love them enough to do this, surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Stop using church intimidation, controlling, manipulation. Jezebel and all them spirits fall back, not trying to hear it. Go with Jesus, walk in peace. On your pew can sit that beast that we're fighting in the world. I'm that JC Supergirl, Jesus Christ, belt of truth, arm of God, I'm slaying you. Power of the word to Esau, MC Heaven rocks for her Lord. Thought they crept in unaware, didn't see the gatekeeper standing right there. Not getting down with your tactics, undoctrinal practice.